Good day, my fellow Safer at Home listeners. It is Cooper, and the Welcome to Cooperville podcast is brought to you by my friends at Midwest Meals. Still fully operational for that meal prep. Check it off the list where they have like 13 rotating meals with all of the information on them, all your macros, the things you need to know to stay and maintain and even get healthier through this little sitch that we're all going through right now. Check them out online, MidwestMeals.com. They ship nationwide. So no matter where you are listening to this podcast, unless, of course, you're not in the continental United States, you can have Midwest Meals delivered right to your house. You just got to go to the website, put your order in for the week, get it in by Friday, and they will ship it out on Monday, and your meals are set for the week. It's easy, convenient, and we all need a little convenience, I think, at this point. By the way, use promo code Cooper at checkout and get 10% off your first order at MidwestMeals.com. Also, much love to my Violent Gentlemen Hockey Club friends. They have the Enforce Social Distancing gear out right now, which you have got to check out at violentgentlemen.com. It really has a vibe to it that I think a lot of us would like to portray in a less softy-soft kind of way. ViolentGentlemen.com. Promo code, by the way, at checkout is Cooperville15 for 15% off that order with Violent Gentlemen. And Monster Energy Rain Body Fuel, getting us through each and every single day of Safer at Home, as they call it here in the great state of Wisconsin, which has been extended. We'll talk about that during this podcast. We need the energy. You need to be able to keep up with the kid. You got to be able to stay motivated and stay after it and grow during this time. And Monster Energy and Rain Body Fuel give me the energy to do just that. Find them at your local and still open convenience and or grocery store. Hashtag Monster Podcast. This was fun. For those of you who don't know, the podcast has extended. Now, obviously, you're listening to the audio version, but we are now doing it live on Twitch. So my buddy Nixon was the first to jump on the Twitch stream. We did that, and the video's on YouTube. You can check that out as well to get a little visual stimulation as well as audio stimulation. But great conversation with a longtime friend, known him for many years through the things that he's been through, the things that I've been through. We've always maintained contact, and great to catch up with Nixon from Framing Hanley. They have a new record out. We talk about that. We talk about going through all this quarantine, social distancing stuff. It is a fantastic, epic episode of the podcast. It starts right now.
Welcome to Cooperville. The Welcome to Cooperville podcast. On demand anywhere quality podcasts are available. Subscribe, get updates, feel better about your life. Welcome to Cooperville.com. Check. Welcome to Cooperville. Make sure you use a coaster.
So welcome to Cooperville Podcast and live on the Twitch. Cooper, Nixon from Framing Hanley. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Living the dream right now, man.
It's a weird fucking dream that we're all living, isn't it?
It is very, very, very weird. I've come to realize that the last 6 weeks, however long this has been now, what is that, 42 Mondays at least, I've come to realize how much I fucking hate the term trying times. We just hear that, these trying times. It's like, no, these are fucking bullshit times. Get out of here with the trying time shit.
Yeah, and you try to find something to compare it to, so it can be like, oh yeah, let's reference that. But there's no point of reference. I mean, there is, but that was before electricity.
Yeah, I was hanging out with my kids the other day and was just like, you don't understand. One day you're gonna look back and remember this, But at the same time, you try to downplay it as a parent when the kids are the age my kids are, because you don't want them getting freaked out. They've been begging for a Nintendo Switch for forever, and they're sold out everywhere. So I was like, I'll get a Nintendo Switch Lite, whatever. We can play each other on Fortnite. That'll be cool. And they were so stoked. And I was like, yeah, let's go pick it up at Target. And they're all freaked out to go to the store. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm also not being a good parent here to say, let's go to the store together, guys. So, yeah, man, I'm ready for the end of all this. But unfortunately, I don't think that that's anywhere in the near future if we're playing this smart. So who knows? We're not fucking doctors. So that's not why you invited me on here tonight.
Well, I probably value your opinion more than some of the Facebook experts that are out there, which I just I don't know. I had a conversation with an actual doctor on the podcast, like right in the first couple of weeks that this thing kind of launched off, and it's all about like really stepping back from what you ingest from the information that's coming out. Because if you start to watch the news and you start watching it in the morning and you start watching it at noon and you start watching all the updates, and we have local updates, we got county updates, we got, down the block updates, my neighbor down the block's like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm making masks, and if you want one, here's a flower print, because I don't know, matches my style. But if you start to like over ingest all that stuff, you have no idea what actually the fuck is going on. It is just a cluster of like, wait, what can we not do? Like, can we walk outside? Can we breathe fresh air? I'm not sure.
Right. I mean, when this all started, I jumped on my soapbox. Like it was, I don't want to say I took it lightly, because I always knew that this was a serious deal when people were downplaying it. And it was like, they were turning into, as always, everything else, a right versus left thing. And I'm like, no, I think this could be a big deal. And then, you had the people who were like, well, it's not going to be any worse than the flu, brother. And then, I got in arguments with people about that, but I like had a little running gag on social media. I'm sure you saw the coronavirus expert, where it's like, that was the thing that I was playing. And then it starts becoming a big deal. And, I realized that I don't want to say that I have a responsibility, because I'm not a doctor, and I don't know anything more than you do or any of, our fans do. But, I've never been one to bite my tongue about stuff, and I call, bullshit when I see bullshit. And there was an argument on my Facebook page about like, we got to open up the economy. And this was like, dude, this is like 3 days after we shut things down, Right. So I'm like, dude, that's ignorance. Like, there are people out there that are going to die if we do that. And then it looks like it's an about face, like, a 6-week dude. I apologize, by the way. This dude keeps direct messaging me about our damn podcast, and I can't turn off the notifications on my computer. But it's like 6 weeks later, I'm like, well, we can't keep doing what we're doing. Like, this isn't working. I don't know what the answer is, but this isn't solving anything. It's creating more hardships. And then, I think we found out quick the cost of humanity, or like how important we are when the price of oil starts to tank, and then all of a sudden they're like, open everything back up.
Oh, wait a minute.
We gotta open everything back up.
Go get that money. We need that money back.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's and it's so, and you get it. You got the parent vibe thing going on. It's a weird conversation to have when nobody understands their head from their ass at this point. You don't have when you have like our state, Wisconsin, we just shut down last Friday. I think last Thursday or Friday, we got the update that we're on safer at home.
You guys just started that last week?
No. We got extended.
Oh.
We got extended.
Okay.
We were supposed to be originally, it was mid-March. It was the day after St. Patty's Day, I guess, officially, that it became safer at home. But then it was supposed to go till the 24th of April. We just got extended till May 26th. So another month plus here.
Oh, here they announced yesterday, like, they're easing. I mean, I know Nashville proper is going to have stricter regulations, obviously, with shit like Broadway and stuff. Right. But they're letting it expire, I think, as early as this Friday. I think I was reading today, one of my buddies sent over a text that was talking about movie theaters as early as next week are back open. It's a fine line too, man, because again, man, everybody's watching this, and this is the last thing they want to hear us talking about right now. But it's like, it's also the reality that a lot of these businesses are going to open up thinking that they're going to alleviate a lot of the stresses that are being, that are being felt because of what we've lived for the last 6 weeks. But the reality is people are smarter than that, and they're not just going to go out and, fill up these restaurants. So it's going to be the fine line of how much does that help? Because then you're incurring more of an operating cost. If you are, full-fledged go, and you're paying your staff, and then you're not bringing anything in because the numbers are down. I mean, dude, for us, like, I don't know what the fuck happens now, no one in the music industry does, but it's like it is the ultimate Framing Hanley luck, dude, that you work 3 years on a fucking album, first album you put out in 6 years, and then the world shuts down
The
like
fuck,
2 weeks
man.
later, and you're
What the
just like,
fuck?
oh, of course this is how this happens. So yeah, man, we did the album release show, back in February here in Nashville, and one of the greatest nights like in my professional career, probably the top night. Just it felt so good after being away for so long to be up there with a new album, sold out room, and like seeing a lot of faces that have been there in Nashville, shit all over the world. Really, people came to that show that we hadn't seen, and that we had seen from the beginning up until that point, that many years later. And then we were so stoked to get on the road and play some shows, and then this happens, and now it's just like, I made the joke the other day with the band where I was like, everybody's going to come out of this with like new albums, and we're going to come out of this sounding like we need to relearn our album because we're not rehearsing right now either.
It's the music industry. I mean, being a step back part of it for 2 decades, and I think watching from a different perspective now that I'm out, at least of the radio aspect of it, and just watching how big this year was lined up to be with albums, with every band that hadn't done anything, hadn't toured, was like blowing up January, Feb. It was just, it was all over everything. Like,
MCR, Rage, all those bands. Yeah.
Fucking all doing the reunions and getting back together and stuff. And then it's just, the excitement was like crazy because you had people like selling off body parts to, like, well, I gotta, I didn't need that kidney, so I'm gonna sell that shit off so I can get tickets to every fucking show that's coming out this year. And, to have all this happen and the long lasting effects of this. Cause especially when you look at, I love an intimate venue. I love, the close quarters. I know that bands love that vibe that you get. I'm picturing that Nashville show, just, bodies, close proximity, singing back songs and stuff. And what does the world look like, after that, when they, I don't want to speculate or give my Nostradamus 2 cents in there, but man,
it's scary, man. It's like, that's the reality, is like, we don't want to bum out all the viewers right
now. No, we're not.
When they listen to this, but the reality is like, we can't even fully comprehend the extent that we could see with this thing. Like, I remember Rogan pretty soon after this talking on his pod about like how this could have a lasting effect to the point where we don't see arena shows. We're talking about the small venues right now, but like, to a degree, is it worse when it's fucking 10,000 people, 15,000 people, shoulder to shoulder, and then we're obviously going to have entertainers that are going to look at this and be like, I just don't ever want to do that again. There's no reason to, I've had my fun 30 years, like no reason for me to do that anymore. I'll just, one thing I hope is with the, where we're at with technology, that we see it. I think it was Cadillac 3. I was watching a live stream they were doing, and they were talking about like, the problems with performing live for your fans on things like Zoom and shit like that. Is like, there's a latency, and you don't understand, like a lot of people don't understand the issues that causes for an artist when they're performing, but they're hearing the guitar like at a different time than it actually is. And then you as a listener, you're just going to go crazy with that. So it'd be dope if during all this, maybe some, kid somewhere is sitting around and figures out a way, like a new platform to where we can pull off a live performance and it not sound like shit. But we're in the same boat that the Cadillac 3 said, was just like, we don't want to do that because we don't want to sound like shit to these people. Like, it's one thing if I pick up an acoustic right now and do it, I mean, that's still going to sound like shit because it's me playing acoustic, but it's it's going to be a little bit better than hearing it coming at 4 different times from different angles. And then you guys are like, God, this band should have stayed broken up, maybe.
What are they doing? Their timing is shit. What the fuck, man? These guys need to get back and practice that new record.
It's like the Framing Hanley shreds.
Oh, God.
Remember those videos? The green shreds.
Man, I miss the old days sometimes. But no, it's you and I have been kind of bouncing just back and forth via text and stuff for a while, kind of through this stuff. And I think it's just to get to technology and what it has brought. Try to put a positive kind of vibe into this. Is from a fan perspective, I think seeing artists from a different angle than maybe you've ever gotten a chance to before is really special for fans. I think you do draw into that uniqueness of seeing a guy like you go on and talk about football and talk about other things and see artists that are doing acoustic things, solo acoustic things in their living room. It's like this. The veil of artists at many different levels being behind the curtain, in Oz, and you don't get a chance to see what they look like, what it's like in real life for them. But, with Instagram Live and other places that people can go, I think that's been kind of a plus thing. And some have been able to monetize it, which is, as an artist, I know that that's always a beneficial thing. But
I mean, that's also like that's a thing straight up that like you walk a fine line too when you put out a new album. You have these expenses and shit that you've incurred on a recoup, but you don't want to fucking go on there and be like, hey, we've got a merch store full of merch right now. Order our merch, because the reality is a lot of your fans have lost their jobs.
Yeah,
and this is like a source of there. You have to generate revenue when you have a new album. That's the way it works. Like there's money that needs to be recouped, and it's not even about making money as much as it is like taking care of costs and shit like that. But it's like you have to, I don't know. There's a human level too, where it's just like, man, it's not, one of the first things I think is Stage It. They used to be an online thing where you could do live performance, and it does sound better on there. We talked in the past about doing acoustic things on there, and then this happens and we're like, oh, it'd be perfect to do that. And, people pay whatever they want to come see it. And then you see all these huge artists that are doing it for free. And it's like, well, we can't charge somebody to come do that. If we're going to do that, we should just do it for free as well. So, yeah, man, it's just a crazy time right now. And like, at this point, like, these are like little TMI conversations I'm sure a label would get pissed about. But it's like, we've even discussed, like, are we going to re-release this album? Maybe record a few new songs and put it out again, just so it is, and as much as it sucks to say that, or that the shitty feeling I get saying that, because I don't want it to feel like we're just that it's about some like, hey, it's about this, but
right.
It is comforting to know that like this whole industry is going to be just trying to fucking figure it out.
Yeah,
because we weren't the only band affected, we weren't the only entertainer affected, and like at the end of the day, fuck the entertainer side, like we weren't the only humans affected by this. Like, we lucked out. Like I have a career outside of music to where I've been fortunate enough to where I am working remotely, and I'm providing for my family. So yeah, it's like I try to look at it with the glass half full mentality. But it's really easy, the more you're just sitting at home to sulk about it all. But it could be worse, man. And that's what I keep telling myself, is it can be a lot worse.
Absolutely. And we'll flip the script. We'll go back to you and I in our the longest interview I've ever done in my entire 20-year radio career. But actually, it started before that. It's a story I told you, and it's a story I always love telling, because it really it gave me, I think, the first feeling of having I don't want to say having some influence in music, just because I was at a music festival. This was probably it was a while ago, like 10, 15 years. I don't know. I'm not going to age myself, but I will. And somebody had, we were at a music festival, and somebody had a mix CD, because mixtapes were out by then. For you kids who don't know what mixtapes are, watch some 80s movies, you'll get it. But so somebody had this kind of mix CD, a bunch of rock stuff on there, and a Framing Hanley song came on, and I was early middle radio career. I was like, who the fuck? Who is this? I had never at that point, being in like mainstream rock radio, heard of you guys yet. Mm-hmm. And so my apologies for that. But I blame the radio industry.
I blame them for a lot of shit.
Yeah, me too. But that's a different show with a different group of viewers.
Yeah.
But the song was "Hear Me Now." It was the first time I had ever heard it, and I asked the person who had it, I said, can I borrow this CD when we're done with this, 4 days of debauchery and take it back to the station and rip the song off of it. And I added it the Monday I got back. I added Hear Me Now, right? Like that. And it went into rotation. Started doing my research on you guys, and in a short time after that, through connections, through labels, whatever, we ended up doing a Nixon takeover of the radio station I was on. And dude, we fucking covered every time. I'm not even sure if there was a topic we missed.
A lot of it was about football.
It was a lot about football on a rock station. It was great.
Yeah, I think that was it was the day before my birthday.
Yep.
And my birthday marked the beginning. It was that Sunday of week 1 of the NFL season, September 7th. And we did radio, and then I think the day off in Eau Claire, to where I just got a hotel room, and I told the guys, I was like, yo, y'all can do whatever y'all want to do. It's my birthday. I don't want to party. I don't want to do anything. I want to sit my ass here, watch Red Zone on my computer, and watch whatever game I can get on the TV, and just be a fantasy football degenerate for the day. Which it's only gotten worse since then. But yeah, dude, that was one of my, for sure, a top, probably maybe my favorite radio visit that I've ever done. A lot of times, yeah, viewers, I don't know if they get it, but there's a game that you play, and it's obviously we're very fortunate to have reached levels of success that we did reach over the years, and a lot of that was due to the fact that we did play that game with the radio, and the whole you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But right. It was instrumental, especially for a band like us, looking like 5 punk ass emo kids, but trying to approach radio at a time when they weren't playing bands like A Day to Remember or Bring Me the Horizon.
Nope.
Bands like us back then, which is another conversation in itself, at the identity crisis now that rock radio has, but which is great. I love it for those two bands. Those are two perfect examples, and I Prevail, another one where it's just when we were doing this 13 years ago, they wouldn't touch us. It was it was always a running joke that we were too emo for active rock or the new metal crowd. And then, we'd go out with, we'd try to get on some of those tours with some of the bands that we stylistically sounded more like, and even looked more like, and our fan bases were more akin to, and they were like, well, those guys are too new metal. So it was we were always that fine line of we could tour over here with Theory of a Dead Man, which we did, 3 Days Grace, and then tour over here with Good Charlotte and Skrillex's old band. So it was always interesting. But that day that we came in the station, I'd already played that game enough too at that point to where I was I'll jet when I want to jet. I'll do what we're gonna go in, make nice, and yeah, man, you're a fucking cool dude. I appreciated that. We had a good conversation, a connection that went beyond just radio. And I'm sure you feel that from your end too, when you would have artists in there where you're like, this guy doesn't want to be there. And I always try to walk into it stoned as hell, with a good open mind of whatever, man. Because dude, I can't tell you, and it happened in Wisconsin. We got a radio DJ fired on accident just because we had been up, we were on a fucking bender the night before, got out of the venue at 3 o'clock and have radio in the next town at 9 a.m. And Lollipop was the single at the time, so they wanted us to come in and play Lollipop acoustic, which, hey, spoiler alert, doesn't work out very well acoustically.
It doesn't have the same vibe.
Yeah. So we went in there, and he was I remember he said something about jupe jupe instead of jerp jerp. He asked what I wrote that lyric about, and I was just yo, this guy doesn't know anything about us. And he brought us in this early in the morning to play this song and to have an interview. So when I left, I called our label. I was like, don't ever fucking schedule me something like that again. And yeah, he ended up, dude, I felt for years, dude, Coop, between you and I felt so shitty about this because he got fired and he was going through some rough shit, and it turned out his wife was pregnant. Oof. The future of the station was in jeopardy. There is a happy ending to this, that he ended up landing another station. And one of the last radio festivals we played was a festival they put on, and it was in It was in fucking Green Bay, dude, right across, one of the coolest moments in my career, because you know how I am about football.
I do.
We played this festival outdoor in this parking lot that was right across the street from Lambeau Field, and like after we went to some diner, and like we're walking in the parking lot of Lambeau Field, just all lit up from the stadium, and it's the Mecca, you know, like you don't realize how spoiled you are being up there, but like it was just like one of those like, oh shit. So, and he and I talked, and we talked about the whole situation, and like obviously he was instrumental in bringing us to that festival in the first place. So it ended well, but like, yeah, man, like there were so many of those instances where it was just like, this guy doesn't care about having this conversation, you know, give canned responses. And that the visit with you that day was anything but, and that's why, you know, we stayed in there. And the band, I remember when I left, everybody's like, what the hell took so long? I was like, dude, that was just a fun conversation that we had.
Yeah, the bus sat out front like the whole time, and we were in there. It was 3 or 4 hours that we just kind of went on, and we threw the songs out, and then in the breaks we would just kind of talk about random shit that popped up. And yeah, but there's definitely, I mean, from old radio guy perspective, there's always that, which took me a long time to learn, because I'm a music fan, and I admire those who have the ability to do, you know, what you do, and those who play instruments do and can get up and do it every night. So yeah, there was moments where I don't want to say starstruck, but I was, you know, your heart palpitates a little bit faster than normal. And, but yeah, there's a vibe when somebody walks into a room that like, yeah, this motherfucker's like,
right.
Don't care. You have 8 minutes. You better ask about the new record, the tour. Right. I had a chance, and this was probably my scariest moment in 21 years of radio. It was at Rockfest, and I was blessed with the opportunity as a music fan to interview Kiss, and it was a jumbotron interview, so it's you really have like 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, I can rattle for 60 seconds. I know there's some guys in Kiss that like to talk. I'm sure they'll take it, and I'll do the metal horns, and everybody will be jacked up, and fire and will happen. So right before I'm going in to the interview room, there's a lady Vicky, who I love. She's does video stuff for festivals and events all over the country, and huge Kiss fan. And she's like, and I'm not sure yet if she did it because she wanted to, like, as a joke, or if she was being legit, but she was like, I know these guys. If you don't know everything about the new record, if you know everything about, you know, the new stage setup, if you know everything about, you know, and it like just like butthole clench, like pucker factor 10. It was just insane. And then they all walk in full costume, of course. So they're 9 fucking feet tall. and I'm, you know, I'm 6 foot on a good day. And I was like, wow, these guys really have no interest in being here. And I'm just like, yeah, Kiss.
Yeah.
And I just put the mic in front of Gene and just let him go. I'm like, yeah. He's like, that stage performance is going to be the best thing you've ever seen. Greatest show on earth. And, you know, Paul's like, yeah. Paul says, and this just flashed into my mind. He goes, we're sorry that the stage here isn't big enough. You should come and see us in Canada. And I was like, wow, I have managed to piss off like 8 people in this conversation. This is amazing, including the festival I'm currently working for. Ladies and gentlemen, Kiss coming to the stage. But there's always a vibe when people walk in. And the cool thing that I got to experience, the latter side of that, is meeting guys like you, and there's very few others that are like tangible human beings, like that are real outside of talking about the next tour, talking about anything else. You know, they're interactive. They like, oh, hey, dude, cool, like, love the tats, blah blah blah. Like there's an actual human element to it, but they're few and far between. And
that, yeah. But I also feel like at least me, even on the artist side, like coming in contact with those other artists, I feel like are more like me in that sense. Those are lasting impressions, man, that you take away, and you're just like, they're fucking good people. Dustin from Starset was one of those people. And I believe they were on that tour when we came through and did that stop in the station with you. They were a little unknown band at the time. And I just remember like watching it and just being like, God, man, these guys get it. Dustin gets it. Like, he had this vision for what he was going to do. And I mean, look at them right now. One of the biggest things in the rock industry, and like deservedly so. And he's a sweetheart, man. Like he treated people like humans. Those were the people that we gravitated to. What you were saying about Kiss, like you feel that as an artist with other artists too sometimes. Like, when I can't tell you when you're doing package tours or a festival type tour. It's not just a festival, but like when they want you guys to be doing all the frontmen or front women as well, doing interviews every day together with the radio station. And it's just like seeing the way that they would approach it, some of these artists, to compared to the way that I would approach it. And it's just like, again, I was never about like, we'd play the game and then like scratch it, but it's like, I'm not gonna jerk you off, man, to get you to play my song. Like, it's like, it wasn't anything like that to where it's just like, I don't need you. Like, yes, we can use you, but like we made a good living and a good career with not as much radio success as a lot of other bands had, but like, I always knew that like I had that human element to me, that because I am just a fucking human, dude. And that's one thing that I know that our fan base can say about us. I can't tell you for how long on tours when artists would be, other bands on tours with us would be like, you guys still gonna merch after the show? You guys are bigger than that and shit like that. And it's like, well, there is no bigger than that. Like, I get it. It's different when you're doing arenas. There's 15,000 people and you can't go out there and the UK was like that for us, where sometimes it would be dangerous going out to merch, and like it's a little area where merch is, and like you just get swarmed, and people would like pass out from heat exhaustion and shit. Like I've seen that kind of shit, but we're not Kiss, so it's like, if anything, if I can go back to our merch table and personally, whether you fucking want to buy a t-shirt or not, like if I can personally shake your hand, I don't know about that now, maybe elbow bump going forward, but like,
high five.
But like, if we could personally thank you for spending your money, you're out working a 9 to 5 and you're coming out on a Friday night, shit, sometimes on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, when we were touring full time, to see, what we always refer to ourselves as 5 punk ass kids from Nashville, Tennessee. That's the least I could do, man. Like I experienced in the last almost 15 years now, I lived my dream, and I never lost the fact that like the reality of knowing where I came from. And, just like, I'm fortunate that I create shit that people care about. Like, because other than that, it's like, there's nothing different about me from you, from, these people watching right now. Shit, they probably create shit too, that if a lot of us saw or heard, that we'd be like, oh, that's cool shit. It's like, I'm drawn to loving things like that. And the fact that people appreciated something that I was a part of, means so much to me. Like, thinking back to when I was in middle school, when I first wanted to do this, and this many years later, like, no matter how the chips fell, the fact that we had to walk away, which I'm sure we'll get to that as well. Here we are this many years later, and there's still people that give a damn. 15 million streams on an album that came out in February on Spotify. That's crazy. Yeah. That's insane. And I also joke that it's like, even if they didn't, I'd still keep doing this because I'm fucking selfish and I just like doing it. Like, I like creating, but it's like, the one reason why we had that connection on a human level, you and I hope a lot of other people in your profession and just people that are watching this in general that I've met in life, is because there's nothing special about me. It's like, I'm a dumbass. I like to have fun, and I love playing music, but like beyond that, I love fucking having conversations. Like, I love talking to people when there's like a real reason to have a conversation. You connect on like oh cool, like I can just shoot the shit with you right now. And then and that's what happened that day. And I appreciate the fact that you recognize me at least as as different than a lot of people that I'm sure you've come into contact with in 21 years on radio, like you said.
Yeah, it's a long and distinguished list. And again, for another podcast, I have names. They're in a book. Names, they're all color coded by first impression and some by second. But you talked about middle school and getting to that being the time when you found music. Do you remember the records, the albums that pushed you in that direction? Because I feel like there's usually something, because obviously it's not, well, not obviously, I shouldn't say that. It's not an avenue that a lot of people take because there's a lot of challenge. It's not easy. You watch too many Motley Crue videos from the 80s and you have a perception of what exactly being a rock star is and what the industry is like. Were there records that pushed you into one direction, into going into music, that you're like, yeah, that was, God, I saw these guys, or they came through town and I saw them live, and it was like, man, that's what I want to fucking do?
I mean, so I grew up, my dad was a country musician. And sorry if you're watching this, Dad. My real dad's still alive. My stepdad, it's probably confusing for some people that do follow us because I've talked about my dad dying before. That's my stepdad, who was like my dad. Excuse me. I grew up with a country musician, very much an absent father. He chased the dream, and if anything, that pushed me away from music. Like I resented him for so much shit growing up. And I remember it was Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. It was Appetite for Destruction. That my uncle had left over at my dad's house one weekend when I was visiting, and I picked that up, and I got into rock music because of that band. But I think when I really started to think, man, well, maybe it's just country music. Fuck that, because of my dad, and maybe I could still do rock music. It was Bush, 16 Stone, Razorblade Suitcase. I'm like that. I know that's an opinion in the minority there, but I definitely preferred that album. There was shit on there like Greedy Fly. That was one of those songs to me that I was just like, holy shit, nobody's doing stuff like this. Right. SCP was another one. Those were the bands that really, in that era, I started to be like, God, man, I love rock and roll. And I'll never forget, dude, when we played Soundwave, which is like one of those touring festivals that I was telling you about. They fly I want to say it's 50 bands from America to Australia. And, in Australia, you're flying city to city. Is that Hop Slam you're drinking, by the way? The Bells?
Nope. Surly Brewing Company from Minneapolis.
It's okay.
Extra.
I'm getting my sour on, man. I'm drinking a lot of sours nowadays. But we did Soundwave in Australia, and that was dope because a lot of these bands that you've watched for years on the TV and stuff, you're sharing the stage with them, as well as a lot of artists you're coming up with, and they fly you in all on the same flights, city to city for the festival. And then when there were off nights from the festival itself, they would do side waves, is what they're called. So they would pair a few bands together to just go play like a club show somewhere on an off night. Right. And we did ours with Angels and Airwaves in Medina Lake, were ours. But there was one with Stain and Bush, and we were in Melbourne, Australia, on the other side of the planet. And dude, I'm here to hear, with Gavin Rosdell. And, we watched them side stage and shit, but to be in a smaller club, I think it was a 1,200 cap room on the other side of the world, from where I lived my entire life and grew up. And that was one of those just moments where I was like, God, man, if 14-year-old me could have ever have even thought that this would have been a possibility. Because that dude's a god, sexy motherfucker, just a great singer, great artist, and definitely was an idol of mine when I was younger. To just be there, and it was just, it was always the small things. It wasn't really about money or anything like that. while we were doing this, it was always just about like those experiences, because those are the things that you're going to tell your kids about. Those are the stories that you're going to come on a podcast this many years later and talk about. And like, so that's the long form answer of like, Bush was definitely one of those bands that, and he was a sweetheart too. Like when I met him, like, and talked to him backstage, like I was a peer to him, it was like I was an equal. And that was also like, just holy shit, dude. Always nice when you meet somebody like on his level though, that treats you like that. Cause you're like, okay, so this guy is like me.
Gavin, it seems like, and never meeting him personally, but being at several Bush shows over the years, and most recently just several years ago, for a band, for a human being of his stature, even though he probably wouldn't classify it as his stature, but of all of the things that he's accomplished musically and in his life, and you don't peg him as the guy who goes out into a crowd in the middle of a field of 25,000 people
mm-hmm.
and is just like, and is singing his ass off and like 3 feet away from people and, pushing through crowds and just giving it everything. There's a veil, I think, that when you get to a certain point, the stage is this is your ground and you stand it, and if there's a catwalk or whatever, you may go out on there, but you don't mix yourself amongst the people,
right?
We are here. You are here to see us. But he always, every time I've seen him, he's always been very, very interactive with the crowd, very like close knit with them. There's always a certain energy that he brings. It's not just a guy standing in front of a microphone with his guitar and singing songs, because he could do that for 90 minutes and people would still pay money to see it. But you talked about stories you can tell your kids, and I think there's a point I want to direct here. Do you, with your kids, obviously we've learned a lot about the essentials and the non-essentials as of late. We have a good beat on what is and what isn't, or maybe we're even more confused on what is and what isn't. But to go down a path of music, stemming from a path of music, as messy as that may have been, do you, when you tell them the stories, or when you will tell them the stories, as you get more stories in yours, are you pushing, I want to say pushing them towards music, or is it an avenue that you open for them, or are you cautious with those kind of teachings just because you've seen it from a period of a lot of change in how music is done and how the things you can do now you couldn't do 15 years ago? Do you what is your direction towards obviously you want them to do what they want to do, it makes them happy, but are you
I went through the opposite of that, man. When we ended the band in 2015, I was just like over it, man. Like I was like, I said at the time, like, rock and roll broke my heart. Since then I've changed that to realize it was the music industry that broke my heart. It wasn't rock and roll. But no, if anything, to their detriment, to my detriment. Like I when they would come around and want to work on something in the studio at our place or something, like I would kind of like shield them, like, no, like, we're not doing that. Like, let's go throw a ball or something instead. But I definitely feel like it is different now, especially because they just have that natural, like, they're drawn to music right now. And my oldest son, Caden, is like, he has like crazy pitch where he'll be doing something sometimes, and I'm just like, what? How are you singing that? Like, he gets so like embarrassed, like when I like am like complimenting on something. But yeah, man, I was a little bitch for a minute, to where I just like, I was like, no, I'm not letting my kids do music because of what this did to me. But now I realize, like, I've got 3 kids that love music a lot. Thankfully, my middle is drawn to sports, so he's got something keeping him busy other than just music. But my oldest, like, both of them, he, like, Landry, my 7-year-old, he loves, like, playing guitar. Like, dude, there's a video I posted. It's on my Instagram when he was 3 years old, and he's watching like Biffy Clyro, my favorite band now, watching their YouTube videos at 3, dude, no, maybe 2.5, but like, and he had my guitar stand as like his microphone because he was at that height, and was playing like his little like paper guitar, electric guitar thing, and like just like throwing down, dude, like just the showmanship of it. And I was like, what is he doing? So that's always been there. And yeah, I mean, I hope they get into computer science and shit like that,
right?
And programming and shit like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be that dad that supports, you know, my kids and whatever it is they want to do, and except for I draw a line somewhere. Football is where the line's currently drawn, because I'm fighting that battle with my 7-year-old where he wants to play football, but the main reason he wants to play football is to hit people, and I'm like, yo, those are the wrong reasons. Like, but yeah, they love music, man, and once I got over, like, you know, that I can't protect them from everything. Like, this is what they want to do. And then they realize how difficult it is one day, and they get heartbroken because of that, whatever, which, I mean, it's going to be a different conversation in a matter of a couple years, you know, it is now compared to 13 years ago. I just want them to do whatever makes them happy. And if that's, you know, I've discussed with them, like, writing an album together with them. So we'll see.
That's cool, though. I think that, as parents and navigating through the careers that you've been through, and especially for you guys, or excuse me, especially for you who's been through, you know, peaks and valleys of the industry, and you've gotten to see, you know, blessed to see so many things. And as I think we talked about in a separate interview about the rock and roll broke your heart thing. Not that you're going to have that kind of experience in every career, but I think that the value in that is being able to show that there is going to be things that are amazing, and there's going to be things that are like kind of super shitty. And when those realizations,
it's just like learning the lesson of being a parent, period, right?
Oh gosh.
It's like we are all going to go through that shit. Yeah, I mean, it's like we're protecting them from the what ifs of the music industry isn't worth the you know, what if that ends up being like something therapeutic for them, like it is for me. I have no right to take that away from them. So once I got over it and realized I was, you know, I was projecting a lot of my insecurities and, you know, failures, or like, you know, maybe not getting to the top of the staircase that I was climbing, shit like that. And projecting that more on what would happen to them as well. That's not fair. Right. They're probably going to be way fucking better than me.
Well, the industry is going to look even more different than it looks now.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't need to have all the things that you needed to have anymore. I don't want to say to be a hugely successful musician, but I was having this the same conversation with Mikey from Islander the other day. I'm like, because he was talking about how hip hop artists have really learned to embrace the avenues of how to get their music out that are not really the standard necessarily. And I was like, dude, the number one most played song, as it might annoy the shit out of every person, was Old Town Road, and that song came from fucking TikTok. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that song blew up on TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, well before it ever, you know, made any waves in radio, and it's going to be it's fun to watch for me now from an outsider's perspective, because I always had one. I think being inside of radio is like, well, why are we just looking at these 50 songs on this piece of paper here, and here's the 10 that we play every hour and a half, here's the 10 that we play, like, why? Who the fuck? Why? That doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, they're doing the same thing in LA. We're in BFE, Wisconsin, people. Like, this makes zero sense to me. So I think it's been fun to watch how the industry has changed, and hopefully has brought some more artistry to music and different avenues to bring it to people. But
I mean, that's a part that, you know, again, a little peek behind the curtain. That's a part that was also frustrating as an artist that I think a lot of people won't know, but it's like, I've always been in the mentality, like the more you play something on the radio, you know, when you have all these people listening, the more they're going to think that there's something wrong with them if they don't like it.
Right.
So a lot of times I would just be like, how is this band like? And then you find out about more and more about the radio game. And then you're just like, oh, okay. But then like, dude, I'm going to stop myself from being a hater right now, but there are just so many fucking bands still to this day that are on the radio, like played on a, you know, one station, like you just said, like every hour.
Yeah.
And just a god awful fucking song that sounds like it's the same song that they released back in 2001. Hopefully that narrows down some of those bands that I'm talking about, but like, and you're just like, how are we still just force feeding this to people? And I had this discussion the other day with a buddy of mine, because a lot of those radio fans want to hear those old bands still sound like that, right. but they are gravitating toward the new sounds of bands that are adapting and you know, doing fresh shit with their sound. Like, you know, Linkin Park was always a really good example of that. Like they and Shinedown as well. Those are two bands where like they adapted with the times. Fucking Papa Roach is not really a much better example of that.
Yeah.
And they would also bring out like the young bands that were up and coming to throw them a bone and be like, you know, paying it forward, like helping this band out because I had bands do this for me. And, you know, but then you just see those other bands sometimes where it's just like, I don't get it. I never will get it. Maybe it's not for me to get it, but that's part of the game, I guess. And, but I mean, I'm sure you'll agree that, you know, we were just talking about that music in general is not going to be the same, you know, and it's not now compared to when it was when we last spoke in station, but radio for sure. I mean, it's like, you know, everyone's trying to figure everything out, and it's like, you know, the labels save their asses by making the deals that they made with the streaming platforms. And now you look at how much money they're making from their artist streams. And it's hilarious that somehow it still panned out toward the bad guys winning, you know?
Yeah. You kind of had hope. I'm sure you had hope. I know I had hope that just because I think I made more friends on the artist side of the industry than I did on the inside of radio industry, just because maybe that's why I'm no longer in radio. I don't know. That wasn't on the official paperwork, but you know, that's neither here nor there. But it was always like, it was tough to understand from my perspective how such good music was going not unrecognized, because I think there are we talked about the new album getting 15 million streams, and so there are avenues to get out there, but even at that, it's not, the game is not fair, and it's been rigged, and it's somehow, even though other avenues have made themselves available, it still seems like it's a little like, wait a minute, like, wait, shouldn't this have worked out better for the person that
the ones that were bleeding at the bottom?
I thought this was supposed to, like, we bought the playing field. Okay, so now I get it. This is it. Cool. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I got a lot happier, man. You know, when we did walk away, because I was just like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
Like, you know, it had reached the point where I felt like when it was time to go make an album, that it was time to go and, you know, follow some magic formula for a hit single.
Right.
When it was like, the reality is with these labels and shit that are telling you, well, no, we need this. If they knew how to do it, they would do it themselves. So it's like when I walked away, I was just like, I hated music because the passion had been like stolen from me, man. Like it was, you know, and I've told this story before as well, and some fans will hate it, but like for me, one of those songs was "You Stupid Girl." Great song. We wrote it with a freaking amazing songwriter in Nashville. I forget his last name. I don't want to, like, he's an incredible songwriter, but it was just it was the first time that I had been put, you know, with an outside writer, and it's like, well, this is what the song needs to be. And I might get in trouble for this, but I don't fucking care. But like at the time, we had a song called War Zone that we had on our album, A Promise to Burn. And I had spoken with Jacoby from Papa Roach, and he was going to sing on that song. And that was going to be our single. There ended up being some hiccups that prevented that from happening. I think he had a song on Carlos Santana's album that was coming out, and it was going to be a single. And Papa Roach was working on like their first new album since was it called Paramore Sessions?
Paramore Sessions, yeah.
Yeah. So it was like their first album since that. And he had a single with, so it was like their camp was like, well, we don't know if we can put out another single with another artist. So it's like, all right, cool, whatever. So then we were steadfast and like, we don't want to release You Stupid Girls, our single, especially like, dude, think about that now. Like I hate fucking singing that song live. And that's why I changed it to Squirrel. Because like in today's climate, you can't write a song like that. Like,
no.
Are you kidding? Like,
no,
you can't write a song like that. So, but even back then, I knew, I was like, it just feels like so machismo. Like and the songs, like there were cool parts to it, but it was just like that was the beginning of like, man, they're starting to take away like the say that I have in the direction of my band that I've. And the founder, like that, this is our band, Right. And so when we walked away, I was very proud of the Sum Who We Are and what we did on that album. And I was just at peace with just being like, man, well, at least, we ended it with an album that like was our rules. But it's like, I just don't want to play the politics side of it anymore. And, that's when I went through the whole, I cased up all my guitars. Like I took down my gold plaque on the wall. Like I just didn't want to fucking be reminded of it. I went and started a brand new career. Like, I've been removed from the workforce for over a decade. And then I go and I'm like, well, I'm just going to be a normal person now. I'm going to get it, start a new career. That's going to be my livelihood. That's going to take care of my family. Right. Did that. Was fortunate, obviously, to have some things like saved up to where like it wasn't a 100% restart, but it was, because it was like that my identity was gone. It's like you're at that point, you feel like a failed businessman.
Right.
And over time, when I started to be happy with myself and my life and doing a lot of, I think, self growth through reading and like finding out things about myself and like focusing on things that I could control and realizing the power of being able to control your outcome again, instead of, being in the music industry. Eventually I needed that form of therapy again. And I needed the songwriting, and I needed to jot down, things that I was thinking. And then the guitar comes back out and you start working on that. And it's like, that was the beginning of this whole journey for this album. It was for the right reasons this time. Like it was when I started doing this in my friends' parents' garages years ago. It was like, it just felt like, oh yeah, that was the allure that music had, that was the attraction that was there always between me and music. That was my sport. It's like, as much as I love sports, and that's like probably my first love. I was never like, look at me, I'm a skinny fat ass. Like I was never blessed with being like the athletic, or having the athletic prowess of my brother even. Which he holds the record in the state of Tennessee for interceptions. And I will tell you right now, I taught him how to play football. So fuck him.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah. But that was, it was therapeutic again. And it was for the right reasons when we started working on this album. And there was something about like the power that I felt from being able to just know that, to know that inside and be like, man, I'm not doing this time to have a single that blows up. Like, yeah, that'd be dope. Right. It'd be dope if we put out a song, our first song that we've released in 6 years, and it blows up on Spotify like Puzzle Pieces did. But like, we didn't plan on that. We didn't. Now, you were one of the first people that heard that song. I was. I remember the day I sent you that song. I sent it to you and Josh from Bad Flower, and he sent me Ghost that hadn't come out yet. Yeah. And I was like, damn, man. I thought my song was cool, and then you sent me
you sent me this shit. No, dude, I fucking remember getting that song, and you and I obviously we were in less contact because you had gone back into the real world, not real world, but doing the damn thing. And you sent me that song. We started chatting again, and I heard it, and I was like, that's a fucking hit. Like not like you wrote that song with the intention of it being, I mean, you know, you write songs for different purposes, but I'm like, and we had, I think it was ironically, and maybe not ironically, but it was at the time of, the United States was kind of going through its own issues with addiction, and that was kind of the headline on the news every night was, you know, people being fucking passed out in their cars and shit. And we kind of talked about the song before we went on and talked about the story, your story about what had been going on with you for the previous couple of years. And God, I heard that song and I was like, dude, like this is a fucking hit. And I think we were like, were we the first to play it?
I believe so.
I think we were the first.
It wasn't even, it wasn't watermarked or anything yet. Like I think I sent you like a SoundCloud link and was like, hey, you can just download it from here, man. I'll get you a better version when we have it mastered. I think you played it before we mastered it, maybe. I don't think it was mastered yet, but it was such a good fucking song. And I remember that conversation because we talked about a lot of those same things, and we some of the things that we touched on here too about that being away time and the missing it and it kind of calling your name again, and specifically the guitar cases being dusted off and opened back up, and but damn, that's that ride for you. I mean, going from, you know, I think you put it right, you know, going out with the album that you felt that you were, all right, this is it. This is the song. Cases go away and we kind of move on with life. And man, that was fun. And that's a cool thing to reflect back on. But God, I was fucking glad that you came back and got back in the game, man. Jeez, I was like, don't. Hey, cool, man. Hey, I get it. Like, I understand, but man, if you just want to write like another record, that would be really fucking cool. And yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, dude, is like I'm at a point now where it's like I'm not doing this for other people.
Mm-hmm.
It means the world to me to hear you and other people like you say the kind words that everyone has said and all the superlatives about this album. But like at the end of the day, like I just fell in love with creating again. And that had been fucking stolen from me, man, for so long. There was a power in just being like, I control the narrative now, man.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't have to, I don't have to fucking follow this format. And it doesn't have to be some formulaic like outline for a song just because that's what's working for everyone else. Like, it's like, no, I'm gonna write. And dude, we have like there's so much shit already like that we're passing around right now. Like it sucks because I had made the bold claim before all this coronavirus shit that I was like, no matter how well this album does or how poor it does, it's like as long as we spend on this album for 3 years, it's like you are gonna get new material from us before the end of 2020. Now all this shit happens, so it's like, well, yeah, now like we're for sure going to do that, but like we were going to do that anyway. Like we kind of hit our stride. So you and I haven't discussed this, and not a lot of people know this either because we haven't really come out and said it on social media. But Ryan and I were the last two original members of FH, and I mean technically he wasn't even an original because he joined the band when we were in support of our first album, The Moment. The first song he did as a member of our band was actually the cover of Lollipop. Which is funny because that was just like his first hometown show in Nashville as like an official member of the band. Right. And that song was like a huge song in the clubs at the time. I was like, yo, let's just play a rock version of this. We do the rock version. Our label sees a fucking YouTube clip of it and asks us like, oh, you guys should record that. Never in a million years do we think it would do what it did.
Right.
I digress there. But like, so he's the other OG member, and he's at a point now where he can't really give this like, you know, 100% right now, like not to take away from Ron at all. That's my brother. I love him to death. But so toward the end, we thought we had the album done. And then I was like, man, I don't know. Let's just keep writing. You know, we had some legal shit that we can't discuss on here that came up. And I was like, well, while this is all going on, let's just fucking keep writing, man. And Stoy, our bass player, who really joined the band when we went out for the Summer Who We Are when I met you 6 years ago. He he had made the switch. We moved him over to guitar because Ryan wasn't going to be going anymore with us. And I think we'll continue writing in the future and shit with Ryan, but I don't think we'll ever do it in the same capacity to where,
right.
But the first song that we wrote with Story on guitar, he and I sat down one night and wrote Forgiveness is an Art, which is the heaviest song on the album, probably the heaviest song we've ever done. And the first song that he had ever that he and I sat down and were just like, hey, let's see what we can do together, man.
Right.
And I was so stoked about that song to where now when the album was done, I was just like, that's like, we just turned a corner though. Like, it's like, I don't want to stop this. We got to release this album, but it's like we're finding out new shit about us. And that's why, a lot of people say like, this is your strongest album to date. And it's like, I know it is. And I also know that there's a lot of different factors in that. And one being that it's the first album that we've ever recorded with this collection of 5 dudes.
Right.
And Shad, our drummer, is probably the most talented musician, not just drummer, talented musician that I know. He's a joy to just be in the room with. Nick, our other guitar player, he was our tour manager for years. Actually, talking about Australia, he was our tour manager over there when we went over there for years. And he was always into like heavier shit like Glassjaw and stuff. But we came up in the scene in Nashville together in different bands. And then he kind of ventured off in a different direction where he was doing a lot of shit electronically. He and I started a project that was, more electronic based. That got put on hold when we went out and toured and supported the Son We Are. So dude, he and I also have like probably 10 to 15 ideas that are completely, it's like, we don't have to be anything now. It's like we can be whatever we want now. And yeah, man, there's just a freedom that comes along with that like I'm sure you can see it now. Like I get really happy just knowing that. It's like I've been in bands in the past with people too that were just like, well, I don't know if that's us. And it's like, man, that's us because I fucking wrote that with this guy that's also in the band. Yeah, so it is literally the definition of us. So
we are cohesive unit here. It's us. I can tell, and I can tell because I've been listening to the record, and you have always written, and the band has always had. There's an emotional tie to it. Okay, outside Lollipop, but obviously you guys didn't write that. But there's always been like I listen to an FH song and I'm like, yeah, I don't feel necessarily what you maybe were feeling when you wrote it, but I can establish a feeling and associate a feeling with pretty much every song that you guys have ever released. I'm like, oh yeah, that what that fuck reminds me of? That bitch.
See, what's awesome about that though is I guarantee you, and then that's the beautiful thing about music too, is like there are going to be songs where you think, and it couldn't be further. Touching on the Hear Me Now, I don't think we ever discussed this, but that was the song that started everything for us. It's the song that got us our first record deal when I was 20 years old. That song was about Ashley Hanley, who passed away in a car accident. And she was like the sixth member of our band in a lot of ways. She was always there, every rehearsal. Would take photos. That's where the framing part came from. But for me, when that happened, that was one of those moments. That was like the first moment in my life that I ever remembered having. And like, if God's real, why did this happen? And that was like my battle with like faith and things that I believed. And, I think everyone's gone through that shit in their life, but that's what that song was written about. A song though, that I guarantee you that you would hear and people that are watching this or listening right now, would never think this. And I don't usually like to say this, but a little, again, sneak peek behind the curtain. I don't like to tell people usually what a song's about, but Baggage Claim. That sounds like a tormented like relationship, between a man and a woman. That song is about mine and Ryan's view on walking away from the music industry and how it still had that stranglehold on us. And it's like, if when I wake you left me, you wish that you never left me. Like it was about like, man, as much as I want this to be done, like there was always that draw because it was, again, that was my sport. That was my, what made me happy. That's what appeased me. And, so yeah, I do always love just like seeing other people's, interpretation of what a song is. And when it's like something further from what you actually wrote the song about, then you know you did something right, because your listener should be able to listen to a song and make that about their life.
Right.
It's like Walt Whitman, I believe, said the poet's purpose. He had a poem called The Poet's Purpose that I had to recite like growing up, and it always stuck with me, where it's like it was your job as a poet to like put yourself in the spot of the reader, you know, without having been there, or maybe even before they've been there, to where when they hear it, there's that familiarity, and it's like they can relate. And that's also like one of the fun things about creating, is just being able to kind of be tongue in cheek about some shit, and like only you know like what this is about.
I think that baggage claim story, I mean, it really gives, knowing now the insight of what that was about. I think that you really give, like, I'm going to go back and listen to that song from that vantage point, and it really gives a really clear, painful understanding of the relationship that you have with music. I mean,
for sure, man. It is like a lovelorn, like it's something that everyone has experienced. I'm sure you've experienced that in a professional capacity as well, beyond just a relationship. It's like, and we, you know, as a songwriter dude as well, like, especially a lyricist, like every person I've ever been in a band with will tell you the one thing they hate the most about me is how long I take to finish lyrics for something, because I'll be that guy that's like, well, I said something that was kind of about the same line as that, like on an album 4 albums ago, and we didn't release that song, but I know I said it, and like it might be a B-side floating out there somewhere, but like, and then finally I was just like, man, whatever, if it fits. A perfect example of that is the term "shell of a man." We put that on "No Saving Me" on the "Some Who We Are," and I believe that's a lyric that is on "Misery" on this album. And I like, it was just one of those things where it fit. I loved what it said. Spoiler alert, I basically ripped that off subconsciously from one of my favorite bands ever, the Juliana Theory. They have a song that I'd forgotten about, where it's like, why can't I let go? I'm only the shell of a man. And like, I was listening to that album Love a few weeks back, and I was like, God damn it, that's where that came from.
Oh yeah, I've got some influences. I know you're the Cure, Robert Smith's birthday.
Oh
today.
yes,
I saw that you posted some love about him. I think
he was one of the first, like I you know, again, like, as a little emo scene kid,
right?
There were a lot of those bands back at, like, in the early 2000s when it was cool to sing out of key and bad that I just couldn't get into. And Robert Smith, I'm not saying that he's a bad singer, but like he was kind of doing that. He was the OG of that back in the day, where it wasn't all about perfect pitch and shit.
Right.
And I just like remember I was dating a chick whose mom was like obsessed with the Cure, and like anytime I would be around like that, the Cure would be on, and like it. I mean, this was back probably my first band.
Did her mom have the same haircut as Robert Smith back in?
She did. No, but her makeup was very similar.
Oh, is it similar? Okay.
Yeah.
I knew there was going to be some sort of aesthetic tie in there.
Yes. And yeah, he was just like, like, I just love, like, it's awesome now seeing shit like The Weeknd and these artists now that have those old 80s electronic sound in their albums as well, where you're just like, fuck yes, exactly.
I'm like, wait a minute. I know that song. Wait, no, that's not the song I was thinking it was going to be. Never mind.
Well, it also reminds me of that, is it Kavinsky, I think? Is that his name, or is it Kaminsky? The dude from the Drive soundtrack. There's a song that sounds just like on the Drive soundtrack. That's an incredible song that sounds just like that The Weeknd track. But I mean, he's synth. Dude, I could go on for hours and hours about, like, you know, how much pop music and hip hop music is better than the current state of rock and roll nowadays, in my opinion. But I digress there as well.
That's for episode 2.
I just feel like people there are a lot more artists that recognize their roots and like aren't afraid to like explore like and pull shit back. I feel like a lot of times rock and roll is on, like, whereas when rock and roll first was invented, even though it was stolen, I love Elvis, but like, even though it was stolen, it was because of how different it was. And now I feel like rock and roll a lot of times is the last thing to be different. When you see these other genres and shit that are bending the rules and, right. Kind of transcending genres, and then rock and roll tries to hop on last, and then you're like, well.
Wait a minute, I think you missed that
boat.
Your
own thing. Yeah,
missed that whole thing. Yeah, there's been and it's always been tough because rock and roll was supposed to be obviously outside of the valid point you just made about it being a part of thievery. That's what it was like. It felt like the intention was supposed to be like, we don't give a fuck. Like, we're going to do what we want to do, and we're going to like this, and we're going to, we can wear leather, or we can wear flannel, or we can wear, I don't know, rhinestones. We can do whatever the hell we want because we're rock and roll, and it doesn't matter.
I wore a fucking jumpsuit at our last show, man.
That a boy. I love it. Waiting on the Puma check to clear. But no, it's
not a tracksuit, a jumpsuit. Like jumpsuit. I looked straight up like I was about to hop in a plane with Tom Cruise.
Nice, or a Ghostbuster, one of the two.
Yes, exactly.
It's a fine line, but no, that is definitely. It's like now the extreme is like, well, yeah, that's what makes it rock and roll, like it because we're
right.
like fucking pyro and stuff. I'm like, dude, Garth Brooks used pyro. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, this is new. And so but yeah, hip hop has definitely gone in it's, again, we talked about how its ability to find different platforms and not be afraid to change it up. I mean, they'll release a song once a week for 6 weeks in a row and be like, oh, I just dropped a new joint. It's on, check it out. It's on Amazon, or hey, we're doing a premiere on here. I just saw like that. Somebody G-Eazy premiered a video on Pornhub.com. I mean, what a great time to be alive. America.
That's amazing.
America.
I heard some people were talking about doing shit like that with Pornhub. I mean, whatever. I'm sure he probably did record streaming numbers as well.
Well, it's people have a lot of downtime. And not sure how. I mean, we won't comment about how they're taking advantage of that downtime, but it's always been, rock and roll has been behind the curve for a while, and I don't know what kicks it into gear. I think your mentality about about how you're like, no, dude, this is mine. Like, this sounds like us because this is right. I wrote it, or we wrote this together, or. No, this is us, and we can go in this direction, and we can go in this direction. We can rules. Have different things on there, man. Why not?
Why make rules like the? And again, I'm not saying that we're setting out to be some transcendent artist or anything, but it's like you're cutting yourself off at the knees, like when you're making these rules when you don't have to, because guess what? It's your body of work. You get to make those rules,
right?
And my rule is there are no rules now. It's like fucking Fight Club. You just show up with weed. That's the only rule. Instead of you don't tell anybody. It's like, you bring a pen. You bring a pen.
First rule of Framing Hanley is bring a pen. Damn it.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, plus I'm honestly just like inspired by so many pop artists and hip hop artists now. Like, dude, I don't know if you saw, but like I posted like my top 19 of 19, like my favorite albums from last year, and probably 7 or 8 of them were all hip hop albums. And then like I maybe had like 4 or 5 like exclusively like rock albums on there. So yeah, it's like, and I think a lot of the bands that people, especially young adults now, are connecting with are the bands that are just like kind of blurring the lines of what is a genre, right. And we can do this. You have a band like Bad Flower, which hits you with that abrasive, like true rock and roll, like grit, but also aren't afraid to like show a soft side and like do like some pop elements. Like right. I can tell that in a band where it's like, all right, that dude listens to, pop radio. Hopefully I'm not wrong about that, Josh, but it's like
apologies in advance.
It's just like why be scared? Why not test the waters? Say You Ever, the first track on our album, is probably my favorite track on the album.
Love it.
It's only like 2 minutes long.
It's really short. I was like, wait, did we just like, now it's bubbles? Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, did I miss it?
And I think I'm probably going to do like my solo shit that I'm doing is probably going to be more along the lines of that. But that's not going to prevent me from dropping a track like that on an FH thing either, because that is us. Like
Right.
if we created that, we're going to put it out there. It's like my buddy who's a hip hop producer here in town. He heard it and he was like, that's like old school Kanye meets Hans Zimmer. And I was like, that's the perfect like compliment. Cool. This is the first track on the album then.
This brings it all into this cohesive unit now. It feels
Right.
better. But I think, music discovery too has evolved into a way where being out of really the premier avenue that I found music was in radio for 20 years. And
Right.
I found it at probably different levels than others in radio did. But being outside of it, I've discovered so much more music that I'm like, fuck, I really like that.
And how heartbreaking is it, dude, when you hear something that you're just like, this band probably won't be around 4 years from now because they're never going to get the credit that they deserve because radio won't touch this. And it's like to know that still does drive the longevity of a band's career, because a lot of these bands, when they're wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac, like they don't understand, what, I can't tell you the term baby band, a lot of get another peek behind the curtain guys, but like, I can't tell you for how long we were still considered a fucking baby band. It's like, yo, I paid my dues. Like we're headlining sold out shows every night. We're not a baby band anymore just because, we're not a part of this huge conglomerate or this huge lawyer that represents all these other bands. So we can't, get on those tours. Like don't say we're a baby band, but all these bands that when they sign their first deal and, they see stars, like everything's going to go great. And then when the game's not played a certain way, and no matter how good the album is, it just stops in its tracks after 6 months, 8 months. It's disheartening to like, I'm meeting, like I met a dude over the weekend who's a fucking brilliant producer and like killer rock guitar player. Like some of the shit I heard him working on, he's like, yeah, I added this in there, and he would play some part. And I was like, yo, that's really killer. Right. And it was like the same situation where his band signed a bad deal, thought things were going to go great.
Yep.
They had satellite radio was a big proponent behind them, pushed them, helped them reach certain levels. But then you have terrestrial radio where it's like, again, like, it's like, how far do you want this to go? That whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a bummer when you check up on a band, or when even like Spotify, the playlist that it makes for you based on the shit that you like and listen to, and you'll find some song, you'll look that band up and you're like, God bless, man, how am I just hearing about this band? And you go to it and it's from some cut from back in 2017, and that's the last thing they released.
Yeah, they're dead
like,
on socials.
Oh, they're done. Yeah, like they released this, dude. Here's a throwback for you. I don't even know if you'll remember this, but like one of the earliest signs of that to me, before we even were signed, and I always said this, I didn't want to be a band. I didn't want to be like Mad at Gravity. Do you remember that band? Mad at Gravity. They had that.
What was the song? Yep,
Burn and it burns.
Yep.
It was on The Rain of Fire, that dragon movie with Matthew McConaughey.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I needed the
song. The album was so good, and for when it came out, it fit perfectly at radio. It was one of those albums. I mean, shit, I was 17 years old, I think, when I heard that album, and I just remember being like, how did this band not blow up? Like, and again, I didn't know so much at that time, like about how, all the business side and the politics. And, when things started going with our band, I was just like, I just don't want to be like, what happened with Mad at Gravity, where it's like that band was, that singer was fucking a million times better than me. And then to see that happen to somebody like that, and you're just like, sometimes it's out of your hands. And that's, again, why when we came back and did this the way that we're doing it now, I realized whether it's fucking 500,000 people on Facebook that, Facebook only allows you to reach 1,000th of every now and then.
Damn it, algorithms.
Or whether it's like, being able to put 300 people in a club every night, or whether it's fucking going all the way to the West Coast when you don't normally get to get out there and playing in front of fucking 75 people. It's like, the fact that there are people all around this globe that do care enough to still support us, almost 15 years later is it's special. And worth way more than playing any of the politics shit. Like, yeah, it would be cool if something took off and then, we're playing arenas all around the world, but like, that's not why we did this this time. That's not what we were hoping for.
Well, the new album, like I said, it's fucking fantastic. I feel every song on there. It was my running soundtrack the other day. The other morning I was out fucking putting the miles in, and I'm like, I'm gonna see if I can go front to back. Thank you for the 2-minute song. It shortened my run by a little bit. But no, Envy's the new album. It is out. It's fantastic. Go stream it. Go download it. And I'm excited, man. I think there's a lot of just talking to you about as much as it's kind of shit-tastic right now, and nothing is really, there's no clarity for anybody, but for artists, we don't know what the other side looks like. But I think the fact that, excuse me, that they probably got the Rona, but there's something to be said about now having the ability for you guys to write and to continue on with some of those things. We're putting the last part of the album together. Like, no, I want to keep going on this. Like, I want to keep fucking jamming on this stuff. And this, I'm feeling this vibe right now. And also the mentality of like, you can do whatever you want. There's not this square box you have to fit yourselves inside of, because, I think FH is in this carnation is the most powerful. And I'm excited for what it looks like on the other end, and I'm glad that we had a chance to talk and catch up and fucking just jam. I do have to throw football in here because I want your 2 cents.
Draft
on this.
week, man. It feels like we have sports back, right?
It does. I'm gonna watch and go like, what the fuck is going?
What are we gonna do after this week though? When the draft's over, it's like, oh, cool. So
cool. I'm gonna go watch tape. With all the rookies at the Packers draft. Be like, oh yeah, that dude's gonna be a stud.
Right.
Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, like Jay Sternberger from last year that was like supposed to be a weapon for you guys. I'm holding him in dynasty leagues right now and being like, oh, he's gonna make that year 2 breakout.
Just wait, man. Well, he was injured. He had an injury, and we had like fucking.
And he was the consensus number 3 tight end in that class, and like Noah Fant and Hawkinson are studs.
Yeah.
So to be number 3 behind them, like I'm and especially in an offense with Aaron Rodgers, Devonta Adams, and probably about to add a badass receiver in this class, I'm not giving up on him because there should be plenty open underneath for him.
Yeah, I think get that slot guy in there, he'd be fine. But the question is, how good are the Bucs going to be this year? I don't know. I want to say,
buddy.
I was going to say, I know you got a guy.
No, we were fighting about this. So I said that he's not watching right now. I was texting him a second ago, but he tuned in at the very beginning, and he was like, because we were talking earlier today about the trying times thing, and he's like, "You fucking brought that up on the podcast. I said something like that earlier." So we had the same discussion.
Copying lyrics too.
Yeah, right before we went live about the Bucs, because I'm of the belief that Tom Brady is washed compared to where he used to be.
Right.
That said, I'm a Peyton fanboy. Like, I'm a stand for Peyton Manning. A long time wanted him to be the greatest ever. For me, Brady proved it's not even a contest or a conversation when they came back from, what was it, 28-3 against the
Falcons. Yeah.
And I was just like, God, he's the best to ever do it. And go to another Super Bowl since then. But I was like, man, he has no velocity, he has no zip on his ball anymore. And then you look at the offense that they built around him in Tampa Bay, and it's arguably the best arsenal of pass catchers on paper ever in the history of the NFL and one team.
Right.
A lot of people are like, they got to add a running back. People forget how good Rojo was in college. If he can just finally, now that Peyton Barber's out, if they can use him as like a workhorse back and let him be one of those backs that, starts to see volume, maybe that, puts him over the top. They're a pass funnel, so their games are going to be fun to watch because they can't stop the pass right now. They're great against the run,
right.
Excellent pass rush, but they have the weaponry on offense to where they can, especially, and people haven't thought about this, dude, they're in a division now where Brady's up against Matt Ryan twice a year and Drew Brees twice a year. he's not playing, he's not picking on these shitty teams anymore. Like,
how many times we get to go and play the Dolphins? Is that
exactly?
How many times does that happen?
I mean, I was a huge Teddy Bridgewater fan when he got drafted. I think the last couple of years he's been way overrated in New Orleans. I'm hoping I'm wrong because that offense they have in Carolina is also crazy. So that's 4 teams where I expect like that offense can put up like 42 points a game every week.
Right.
And it wouldn't surprise me. But the way it is predicting a damn Super Bowl team, man. I think they moved to like 12-1 favorites today after the Gronk news.
After the Gronk sign.
It's crazy too, though, because I mean, OJ Howard is already a stud. Arians just has never in his history of being an offensive play caller or any of his offenses used a tight end in his offense. So Gronk, I think, he tapered off when he last played, but I mean, he's a year removed from football. I'm sure he's healed up. Current WWE 24/7 champion actually right now. Did you see what the WWE they issued a statement saying that with the rules of the 24/7 title, he knows that the title's up for grabs anytime, anywhere. So it was like they go one moment he could catch a touchdown from Tom Brady. ... Can you imagine that?
Oh my God, that'd be fantastic.
A touchdown celebration, Brady just pins him and a ref comes over there and counts 1, 2, 3, and Brady's the champion.
Now we are talking about fucking entertainment. Now, if that's not
how they got the XFL to fold up. Gronk was the mastermind behind all this.
He's the fucking linchpin in the whole goddamn thing. He's like, wait a minute, I have an idea. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring it all together in some unity. No, I think it's nice to have that that one thing to like look forward to. If you've been deprived of things that you're so used to having, and even not even giving a shit about. Like I love the Brewers. I love, how the team has kind of made something of themselves in the last couple of years, but really since 2008, since the CC Sabathia year, and there's excitement in Milwaukee, but I would like pay it. I'm like, oh damn, we're doing well. Then start watching games middle of the season. Okay, cool. And then if they were making a run, I mean, it's been an exciting couple of last end of the seasons for them, but to not have like that element.
I hate baseball, dude. And I'm the same way, especially, me being a degenerate gambler with like DraftKings and shit. I was still every night before 6 p.m. getting my lineups in, before it locked. And dude, now like they're doing like League of Legends on DraftKings, and like you can watch Madden simulations and like win like DraftKings dollars. Like this is the longest I've gone in 4 years without like gambling money on sports. And dude, so the whole like online daily fantasy sports community, they've been freaking going crazy on Twitter. That's like most of people I follow on Twitter are all like gamblers and like daily fantasy people. And there was a prop a couple of weeks ago that was a dude bet he could do, I think it was 3,000 was the number. Maybe it was 2,400. I have to look that up, but it was like whatever X amount of push-ups in, God, I have to look this up now. Bill's push-up challenge.
So they've resorted to
2,400 push-ups in 12 hours. And there was over $1 million bet on this offshore, dude. That's how deprived of sports everyone is right now.
People got the shakes, man.
He hit it in 11 hours and like 50-something minutes.
People got the shakes.
What's that?
People got the shakes. They're like, I need to bet on that guy. Make that motherfucker do some push-ups. I want to see that shit. Do it. Here's my money.
He live streamed it on Twitch.
Fuck yeah, he did.
Like CNN, like contacted him the next day about it. God. Like, I think it was Men's Fitness. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy times right now, man. And to get that itch, you're like, we'll bet on anything, right? I've been trying to be like, man, how many times can I masturbate in a day? Maybe that's what I should do. And
we're back to the Pornhub music video debut, G-Eazy. Like we got him back.
Yeah, how many times can I masturbate watching G-Eazy's music video on Pornhub in a day?
Place your bets, people. Place your bets. I want to see that offshore money coming in here. Nixon, my friend, hey, thank you so much. for joining me on here for the stream, for the
Always a
podcast.
pleasure, man.
We'll bounce this over to YouTube as well in the next day or so. And hey, best of luck, man. It's we're like the world is on a level playing field for the first time maybe in a long time. We're kind of like, oh yeah, we're all kind of going through this shit. And
yeah, I mean, this brought us all together in a different way than we've ever experienced. So, man, hopefully we're up in Eau Claire, or where are you at now? Or like,
I'm still
in Eau Claire?
Yeah, I'm still in the area. Still up.
Dude, I don't think we discussed this on radio, but my buddy texted me a second ago because he's watching, and he was like, yo, I remember hanging out. That venue that we played in Eau Claire, dude, was the most, and it was a fun ass show, but it was the most, for Wisconsin. I'm from Tennessee, so I grew up in the sticks.
Right.
I would never imagine something like this existing in Wisconsin. It was like straight up, like, I remember we had this dude that had like one tooth and he wouldn't get off the bus at the end of the night. and then like we were like, yo, like, I think he was offering drugs. We're like, yo, no, I'm sure we don't do any of those drugs that you're wanting.
I'm sure none of these were all made in your bathtub, man.
Yeah.
I'm scared of that shit.
Stoy finally, he's like, all right, well, you're not going to leave. And he just stands up and pulls his pants down and just sits down. And then the dude wanted to stay even longer. And we're like, yo, you got to go, man. Like, we're going to bed soon.
Yeah, it's getting late, isn't it?
I didn't know that Wisconsin was like that area of town was.
Damn.
That was an experience. My buddy was like, yeah, we were there and I remember that. And I was like, yeah, we played like volleyball before the show, and then like afterward, like we're confident that we were on in Twilight Zone or something. I was like, how stoned are we right now?
Well, dude, it's like I think it's the cold, man. Like I think eventually it just fucking like your brain cells start to freeze from the inside because you're like, fuck, it's just cold like 6 months out of the year, and then and this shit doesn't help because it's like, well, it was just cold for the 6 months out of the year, and now we can't fucking do anything, so we may all be going batshit, but you know, it's cool. It's good. What else are we gonna do? Hey,
dude, well, hopefully we see you soon when all this is over, man. And
yeah, man, I'm actually
have a few of these in person.
Yeah, I'm planning a trip down your way soon. I'll
oh, really?
Yeah.
Definitely hit me up, man.
Soon, as in like when it's legal.
Right.
When I won't be breaking law. Actually, if your laws are a little laxer than they are here, maybe it'll be sooner than later. I don't know.
We'll see how long that lasts. You know, I feel like we're gonna be one of those areas that opens shit up, and then we're like, did you see the tweet today? Somebody was like, because Georgia is like, I think at the forefront of opening everything up.
Yeah.
And it was like, Georgia decided to open everything up when they're up 28-3 on the coronavirus.
We've seen how this plays out, people. Exactly. I watched that game.
Exactly.
It comes back. Awesome, brother. Hey, take care of yourself. I will put all the links in the comment section here so people can follow FH and Nixon. And
thank you, brother.
And I appreciate you. Take care of yourself, and let's chat soon. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely, man. Stay in touch, brother.
Awesome, brother.
See you, man.
Yeah, buddy. Nixon, Framing Hanley. Go listen to that new album, Envy. It is amazing. Just one of my faves from them, and a lot of them are my faves. That is the Welcome to Cooperville podcast, episode 51, now in the books. By the way, now even more ways to keep up with us on social media. If you listen to The Open, of course, you know now we are on Twitch. So if you don't have the Twitch app, download it. You get a free subscription if you have Amazon Prime, or if you have like Amazon, you can go to your Amazon when you download Twitch, and you get a free subscription. And I wish you would be you subscribe to me. So look on the Twitch app or go to twitch.tv and look for No Limit Cooper. Make sure to follow. Be sure to subscribe if you can. And you can watch all of our podcasts that we're doing now live on Twitch as they happen. YouTube, we have added that element in too. Before we were just running the audio from the podcast on YouTube. Now, given that new Twitch element, we're now running the video of the podcast, which you can check out right on our YouTube channel. Just search for Cooperville and make sure you subscribe there as well so you get the updates when the new videos are posted. Otherwise, the standards, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can find the Welcome to Cooperville podcast. Me personally, at No Limit Cooper Official is where you can find me on Instagram, and No Limit Cooper _ on the Twitter. So follow. Let's all stay in touch. Let's all get through this together. Until next time, mwah, I'd hug you. Oh, that's not allowed right now.